Whoa, hold up. Are we watching Daredevil Born Again or The Handmaid's Tale? The political overtones with this season finale, they were a lot. Some of you insist they're not there, but can you really still insist that? I mean, martial law? With rumors floating around in real life that martial law, the internet never fails, but floating around that it might actually be imposed, and here it is on the show. I hope this season finale doesn't come back to haunt us. And then also, just like with The Handmaid's Tale, you want to say, oh, you're exaggerating, it'll never be that bad, and it's over the top. But then crazy things that are over the top and that bad kind of happen. I mean, we seem to be living in sometimes that timeline. So, I mean, I think that you can't deny. I'd be shocked if any of you would still deny that Fisk is being used as the MCU's Trump. I mean, I don't know what they're going to eventually do with Norman Osborn, and then they have a Tulsi Gabbard too. I don't know, Kevin Feige. I don't know if this is a pool you want to wade into. So did Daredevil Born Again just get awesome, or did it totally jump the shark? I myself am not sure. I think it might be somewhere in between. But I would like to report a murder. Not that one, but the character assassination of Mr. Matt Murdock. What a whiny little bitch he's turned into this season. I mean, and also, did he ask for oat milk? I mean, sorry, oat milk lovers, no disrespect, but it's just such corny, lazy character work. They're like, oh, he drinks oat milk. He's the kind of guy who asks, like, you know, Punisher doesn't have oat milk, so you're just being a jerk. Right? I mean, that's not very nice to do to the guy who just saved you, helped save you. We've been talking about how this show, this season, has become the Fisk and Vanessa show. But with the season finale, it occurred to me that it's not just because their writing is so good, but because Matt Murdock Daredevils is so bad. The writers on this show, I think, like Fisk and Vanessa better. They don't really know what to do with Daredevil. They took him out of his costume for most of the show. His court cases haven't been that interesting. He's just floundering. He really, really is. But they did the blackout. New York City has been plunged into darkness several times in Marvel Comics over the years, with not just Daredevil, but Punisher and Spider-Man dealing with the fallout. Where is Spider-Man? It's so weird that he's not here, even since Fisk specifically mentioned him earlier on in the season. He didn't mention him outright, but we picked up what he was putting down. I was going to say it a little bit later, but I do feel that even the Marvel Disney Plus shows now are facing the same issues that the movies do, where they have events that are so big that you don't understand how they can remain contained. You're like, I think Spider-Man would swing in here about now. How about Ms. Marvel? We know that she's in this universe. Her dad's not going to call up LA and be like, maybe you should come home. I like the idea of the blackout quite a bit, not only just because it's from the comics, but it's a really interesting setup. But I thought it was wasted here. I'm a New Yorker. I've been in New York City for several blackouts in real life, both during the day, where I had to walk down many, many stairs in the emergency stairs in an office building with all the other workers. That was a crazy, scary experience. And then I walked home. And it was so weird to be in the city when it was, like dead like that. And then at night, I've experienced blackouts at night as well, where it's so dark in your apartment that you only have the moonlight to help you kind of find your way until you can, thankfully now we all have phones, so you have a flashlight readily accessible, but it's scary. It's eerily scary. Again, they showed some looters, and there is always some looting, but it's just like with the oat milk joke. It's sloppy. It's obvious. There are so many more interesting things going on, both, in terms of people's actions and emotions during a blackout and the commentary on what it means for the city, that, I just think I think, again, as I said, they wasted it. I think it should have been at least a few episodes. You could do an entire season with a blackout, make it like a no man's land situation. It could have been during the day. A blackout during the day is just as eerie and creepy as a blackout at night. We just talked about the Punisher special that was announced, the standalone Punisher special. Maybe it'll be him breaking out of, I don't think, somebody said maybe it'll be him just breaking out of Fisk's basement. No. But we thought maybe it would be the blackout storyline. So what do you think? Do you think Daredevil Born Again wasted the blackout or used it well? So Karen's back, but Foggy remains dead. I was so scared Karen was going to be like, well, Matt, I have to tell you something. I was like, please don't do it. Because again, I think that Foggy being secretly alive will just undercut this entire season. So I'm satisfied with this arrangement. Don't love Karen on the Disney version of this show. It makes me particularly miss Elektra because I'm not a fan of female characters being stuck as the Wendy to the male characters' Lost Boys, where the male characters get to have all the fun, and then the female character has to be the mom and rein them in and say, don't have so much fun. And that just really sucks. Elektra gets to play with everybody else. So I'm like, let's get Elektra back in here. Now, are we getting a love triangle with Matt, Karen, and Frank? There are some of you that ship Karen and Frank. I don't see it. I mean, I'm a fan of ships. There are some ships that I can really get behind. I mean, I'm a Raylo. But Karen and Frank, I don't see it. Also partially because Frank's entire MO is that he's just so devastated by his wife and kids being gone. So I don't know if he'd be quite as vicious if he was in a relationship with someone else. Although he does get around in the comics. He does blow off some steam at the very least in the comics. And he even hooked up with Elektra. Speaking of Elektra, that's some pretty amazing artwork. Makes the whole relationship worth it. That's beautiful. That's a gorgeous cover. And yes, as you can see, they hooked up when they were on the Thunderbolts. And this reminds me a lot of Harley Quinn and Deadshot hooking up in the Suicide Squad. It's like the Marvel and DC versions of the same relationship. And I think that's pretty funny. I'm not sure which one came first. I do wonder if maybe they influenced each other a little bit. I'm up for some sizzle next season. This show could use some more sizzle because, that's one of Matt Murdock's defining qualities. He's a himbo. He gets around. He's a shameless flirt. He flirted even with Karen. He's like, Karen, can I use your eyes to help me look at documents? And I'm like, what happened to running your fingers across the ink? And he's like, shh, I'm trying to get back with Karen. So I thought that was pretty funny. But if Karen's just going to make Frank and Matt talk about their feelings all the time like she did this evening, no thanks. That's the opposite of sizzle. That's not very hot. And also, what's with 2 therapists on this show? I mean, we already have Heather. Don't worry, we're going to talk about Heather. But a couple that's in a very good place right now is Fisk and Vanessa, a.k.a. Kingpin and his queen. Although, did you catch once again how she was wearing white during his absence? Watch your back, Fisky Poo! I mean, you might think you're in charge, but clearly Vanessa has you wrapped around her bloody finger. Yes, Kingpin is also back. Or as the police commissioner says before he's killed, Kingpin never left. But he's no longer hiding who he really is. He's wearing white, for the most part, at work. That gold tie, by the way, was nice. I liked that quite a bit. I was like, did Vanessa pick that out? That is very nice tie. And I gotta say, he has a surprising amount of followers. I was like, his anti-vigilante task force is an army. I was like, that's a lot. I thought it was just about 10 guys. It has grown substantially. I didn't think this show had the budget to get that many extras and put little Punisher vests on them. But it does! And so Daredevil says he needs his own army to compete. I'm sure some people are like, oh, they're superheroes? But again, speaking of the budget of this show, I suspect it's probably the people of New York, who've been strangely absent from this show outside of BB's avant-garde reports. But the city voted for Fisk, so I think they'd be pretty split down the middle themselves. But an 8 p.m. curfew for New York City? That was insane! To be fair, New York City, of course, used to be known as the city that never sleeps. Although post-pandemic, we kind of start to wrap things up at around 10 or 10:30. It's a little sad that we're no longer the city that never sleeps. But, at least we're doing a little better than LA, where they start to wrap things up at around 9:30. But 8 p.m., that would be a disaster for businesses, from restaurants to movie theaters to Broadway shows. When he announced that, I was like, there goes Broadway. And they've started reporting Broadway box office, by the way, which I think is very interesting. And it is hefty. Also, nightclubs. It would be like Trump's tariffs, where I could see Fisk being pressured to reverse this pretty quickly. Maybe you could argue that, like Trump, he wanted to make a big splash and get people's attention and kind of flex his muscles, but it's just so ridiculous. It's 8 p.m. If he'd said 10 p.m., I think people would be like, oh, that's nuts, but it's still feasible. Because you can move, the Broadway shows up to 7. It's crazy. How would everybody get home after work? Just to have such an order in the first place, I think is extreme. And it makes this show not only seem cartoonish, but reactionary. Disney's Daredevil just doesn't have the sophistication of the Netflix version, or even Andor. Although I do wonder in Trump's America 2.0, where one side feels vindicated and emboldened and the other side is exhausted and annoyed and frustrated, what is the general public's appetite for these revolution storylines? We've got our armies, right? We've got the anti-vigilante task force, which again is more like an army at this point, versus the people of New York City, I suppose, or at least half of the people of New York City. But even more important is that our war councils have formed. Fisk has Vanessa, Buck, Daniel Blake, and Sheila Rivera, who recorded the police commissioner and ratted him out to Fisk. Wow, just, to save herself. As that new recruit to the anti-vigilante task force says to the commissioner as he kidnaps him, "Hey dude, I'm just trying to survive." And that's what Sheila tells herself as well. By the way, I just want to say in a side note, I wasn't going to say it, but I think it was interesting that the show dared to showed that Blake and Fisk were accusing the council members of illegally enriching themselves off of their political work, which of course comes from real life conversations that are happening and conspiracy theories. But this show, because those people folded, implied that it was true of apparently all of them. Maybe there's like one or two rotten council members, but they were like, "Oh yeah, the system's corrupt." And I was like, whoa, strong choice to make there. What did you think of that? Again, it's just so political. Also, BB, by the way, is stuck behind enemy lines still, without a story to take down Fisk now that the commissioner is dead. Did he send his files? Did he hit send before he left or before he was killed? We'll see. Also, again, with the real world current political situation and how the news cycle is treated, would a lot of people even care if she did have a big story to report? Would it really be that silver bullet that it maybe, I think the days of, Woodward and Bernstein might be, if not gone, significantly altered. But BB, how have you not uncovered this Red Hook angle? Wilson Fisk takes a huge interest in Red Hook, where his criminal dealings have previously taken place, and you don't dig around to see why that might be? Foggy might not have put two and two together, but he did find out in trying to defend his client, who had a robbery, he was arrested in Red Hook, that Red Hook is a free port, which means it technically lies outside of any jurisdiction, allowing now Fisk to operate in his own tiny little country within, right next to New York City. That seems wrong to me. That seems like, but here's the thing. Laws are only effective if someone enforces them, as we've also been finding out in real life. Look, again, as I said, I don't want to get political either. I know a lot of people go to entertainment to escape, but the show is putting it in there themselves, and it would be irresponsible of me not to. This is a breakdown. I got to break down the very clearly political commentary that they're putting in here. And really, do some of you still believe that the show is not doing that at this point? Then on Daredevil's side, operating out of the bar where Foggy was killed. Ooh, dark. There's Karen, that retired detective. And now also they added Detective Kim, who I guess they let in on Matt Murdock's secret that he's Daredevil. And that's maybe why Kirsten's not there, because not everyone on the show can know Matt Murdock is Daredevil, right? Right? Maybe not. That was a cool shot, by the way, in the end with Daredevil surrounded by newspaper clippings of what's going on in the city. That was a cool shot. And I also really like the shot of him confronting the AVTF officer who killed Hector. That was the one point where I was like, oh, this seems like the Netflix show and the character from the comics. And I also like this one crystal clear shot of the city at night. That was really beautiful. I don't know if the graininess works for this show, but the grainy quality of the visuals sometimes, particularly because it's not consistent. All right, so we have our two sides, our two war councils. Now let's talk wildcards. Bullseye, still on the loose, and based on some of the set photos for season 2, which is filming right now, seems Daredevil and Bullseye might actually be teaming up. What? I loved it, by the way, when Frank called Matt out on stepping in front of bullets for a lot of people. He's like, what are you doing? But Kingpin is quickly becoming extremely formidable, and if Daredevil can talk Bullseye into maybe just maiming instead of killing, Bullseye might be the edge that Daredevil and his team need. Serious question, though, and I'm serious about this. I'd really like to know your thoughts on this. What is the difference at this point between Bullseye and Punisher? I know this show wants to have an R rating. It's like they're very proud of it. But I thought that both are extremely and unnecessarily violent. So how can you condemn one and not the other? Like, John Bernthal is a charismatic guy. He sure is. But some of his kills tonight, like, come on. Like, if I was Daredevil standing there, I'd be like, dude, what are you doing to me? How am I supposed to just walk away from this? I mean, come on. And by the way, that VFX splatter is extremely sloppy and noticeable. Do they just drop it in at this point? Do they do just like a couple of splatters and then they just throw them in? It's like almost like an old video game with the splatter sometimes. By the way, Punisher is very lucky that Kingpin decided to go full Bond villain and decide to capture him instead of killing him. How is Punisher not dead? And the wild card that he is, of course he escaped. Anthony. I mean, I understand that the AVTF, the Anti-Vigilante Task Force, are all major Punisher fans. But as major Punisher fans, you think they would know not to go up to his cell and, like, touch him. I mean, Anthony, the guy Anthony, they gave him a name. That guy's a moron. Ooh, wait, one last wild card, Miss Heather Glenn. That's right, she's still around. Matt's like, I thought we broke up. I think they kind of did. At the very least, they're on a break. Because her date with Matt went from bad to worse when he woke up in the hospital and was like, Karen? And she was like, you gotta be effing freaking kidding me with this stuff. And then he went on to insult Heather's biggest client, Fisk. I think, again, as I said, it's pretty clear that they're at the very least on a break. Also, their love nest just got blown up. So they're definitely not going to be together for a little while. And she just accepted Fisk's offer to be his commissioner of mental health, which is do we actually have one of those? I think that's a very good idea. But on this show, we'll see if she's a double agent for Daredevil or if she goes all Hugo Strange on Daredevil. I gotta say, I kind of wish she'd go all Hugo Strange. I think it would be really fun and interesting. But based on the way this show's going so far, I think it's going to be that she's a double agent for Daredevil, or she's a victim, or something like that happens. Nothing fun and exciting. The original Daredevil show had a lot of wonderful female characters, and it's a shame that the female characters here, for the most part, are so boring. The only one who's really, I think, has something interesting going on, in my opinion, is Vanessa. Also, Little White Tiger. But I mean, she hasn't really showed up yet. But Little White Tiger, I like her a lot. That storyline is progressing. They have you know what? They had, like, Muse was wasted. White Tiger so far has kind of been wasted. And then they kind of wasted the Blackout. I'm like, you could do less and just really actually do it and dive into it. It's a little like what happened with Thor, Love and Thunder. They were like, oh, we're doing Gore the God Butcher and female Thor with Jane Foster. And you're like, why don't you pick one and do it well? And they're like, nah, that doesn't interest us. Also, why would the 1% just not buy their way out of those tiny little cells downstairs? Like, okay, you got me, literally. Give me my checkbook. How much do you want, Fisk? And Jack Duquesne was down there, who was on the Hawkeye show. So where the heck is Hawkeye? Either one of them. I mean, he knows personally Kate Bishop. You think her mother might have called up and been like, I haven't seen my man friend for a while. Do you think you could maybe look into it? Although, her mother ended up being kind of evil and working for Fisk's show, right? That was a long time ago, that show. But, yeah, Fisk was there too. So why isn't the Hawkeye characters here? Or again, Spider-Man. Kingpin's moves in this season finale are so big that, again, as I said, it's a smaller problem of what the MCU is having with the movies when it comes to why haven't the Avengers showed up for these events that are happening. Like, you got to keep things small enough that it would only concern Daredevil and Hell's Kitchen, or you got to be able to bring in the other New York City-based superheroes. In fact, I think Fisk's movements here are so large that they would make waves on a national scale. And I would think that every major superhero, I mean, how is Sam Wilson not interested in what's happening here? Does it bother you? And to wrap things up, here are some of my other observations about the season finale. I hope in season 2 that the fights get, like, not just better, but just good. Because they were the hallmark of the original Netflix show. Where was our big hallway fight? We kind of had one in the first episode on the stairs with Bullseye, but we never got our big hallway fight. That has been the calling card of the Daredevil show. They had a great opportunity when they took on the AVTF, Anti-Vigilante Task Force, in Matt Murdock's apartment in the Blackout. But again, That was ridiculously over-edited. Like, wow, it was just embarrassing. And I think there could have been stronger creative choices with the blackout and the lights that they had on from the AVTF. Like, look at how Tate McRae used lighting in her recent performance on SNL. I mean, she did a much better job than this action sequence did. I did appreciate the coldness of Fisk asking how Matt was doing after Matt had saved his life, and then being like, this might be a great opportunity to finally kill that guy off. I thought that was pretty good. Because he says a dead hero is better than a live vigilante. That was a great line. Very Fisk, very Fisky. But is Fisk really that strong? I mean, I could buy crushing the police commissioner's skull, but actually being able to break the top of it and rip off the jaw felt like overkill. Ha! Thank you so much. I'll be here all week. Please tip your server. And finally, I've been dying to say this all season because it's driving me crazy. Doesn't Fisk look a lot like a turtle? With the little head and the big shell, and it's the skin around his head kind of being strained as he looks around. He looks like a turtle to me. I mean, if I really wanted to get under his skin, if I were Spider-Man with my thwips and my quips, I'd be like, Fisk, you're starting to look like a turtle. I think it would really annoy him. All right, so that's a wrap on Daredevil Born Again Season 1. What do you think? What do you think of the Disney version of this show? And how do you feel about how they've set up Season 2? The new black suit looks pretty amazing on the set photos. That looks very good. But is this show getting awesome or slightly ridiculous? I stand by my statement that they're doing a pretty good job with Fisk and Vanessa. I mean, I think they got a little bit too political and a little bit too over the top this episode. But I really don't think they know what to do with Matt Murdock, either as a lawyer or as a vigilante. I think they're really struggling with the character. And they need to bring in a writer who better gets the character. Stat. All right, and a better fight choreographer, for the love of God. All right, so share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.